With that being said, I am going to read the bios of our two prestigious um, panelists today. Jamie was last seen at First Stage in Fly By Night. Now, and those of us who are First Stage fans, we know that Fly By Night was huge and an awesome production. And Jamie was nominated for Helen Hayes Award for most outstanding actor, not best, most outstanding actor. He has also performed with Bedlam as Edward and Robert Ferrars in Sense and Sensibility at American Repertory Theater, Portland Center Stage, and Folger Theater, where he has also been nominated for another most outstanding. And I'm going to say performer now as they are changing the language. Some of his DC favorite performances are Newsies at Arena, which was just this past season.
Mhm.
So and did wonderfully. And some let's Cake Off at Signature Theater, The Wanderers at Theater J, Booing Booing with No Rules, and Twist Your Dickens. I feel like I should see that one. I like that title at the Kennedy Center and Second City. He has performed at regional theaters across the DMV, but also outside of the DMV, including the Guthrie and the Acting Company, just to name a few. He has an MFA award in acting from the Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers, so he wasn't too far from us. Thank you for not going or being too far from us. Themby Duncan, a dear friend of mine, and now has been adopted into the First Stage family, is currently the Director of Arts Engagement and Education at Shays Performing Arts Center in Buffalo, New York. I'm going to pause right there and I want to add something about the work that she has currently been doing in Buffalo, New York, which is working with the Buffalo Police Department to teach them about engagement, to teach them about body language, to diffuse some of the tensions that arise when citizens are confronted by the police, typically Black citizens or citizens of color. She's an arts administrator, director, actor, and teaching artist with nearly 20 years of experience synthesizing theater, American history, and social justice. She has served as the creative programs director with Young Playwrights, the producing artistic director of African Continuum Theater Company. If any of you know me, you know that was where I got most of my work starting out here in DC. And she was the lead teaching artist at Ford's. She's directed and performed in numerous productions, inclusive of Pulitzer Prize winning playwrights like Lynn Nottage, Dale Orlander Smith, August Wilson, and Ayad Akhtar. She's led adjudication and mentorship projects with the Kennedy Center's American College Theater Festival, the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities, the Prince George's, so much here, blah, blah, blah. Prince George's County Theater Festival, the Mead Theater Lab Program, and the National History Day. She served on the Theater Washington Helen Hayes Board of Governors, and she was a co-founder of Black Theater, and she is the co-founder of Black Theater and Dance Symposium, which is held at the University of Maryland. She also has her BA in theater from University of Maryland, my alma mater, and that both of them come with so much in terms of theater and their professionalism in theater. And you would be surprised to know with all of this, they are parents. And Jamie is currently raising a child as a theater artist, and Thembi is on the other side of the rainbow. So we've brought them together so that they can share with you their experience as theater artists.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. This is
Yes.
an honor to be here with Jamie and to get to know him. And I'm excited, Jamie, because I don't know you yet, but I'm hopeful that after the end of this conversation that I'll know you better. So,
I hope so. I agree. And the fact that you are on the other side of the parenting, I think I'm gonna bring my baby over so you can take care because I because it's not hard or anything raising a kid. It's
okay,
easy.
well, that's a long trip. I mean, I'm in Buffalo, so but I'm happy to help in any ways
Excellent.
that I can.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it's been he's again he's going to be 2 in May, so he's about 18 months or 16 months, 17, whatever. But he um it's been the most amazing ride. It's everything that everybody tells you. It's like it's the best, it's the hardest job you'll ever have, and it's the best job you'll ever have, and it's a 24-hour thing. And with COVID right now, and how that has changed our lives, it's completely, it's the best thing it's done is it has allowed me to spend time with him. And basically I raise him, I've been raising my child, which has been amazing. I miss the theater so much, and miss the arts world so much, but at least I get to watch him grow, which has been a really great thing.
Yeah, I think for a lot of times when they're younger, it's about management, right? It's about time management. It's about relationship management, because you're in this early stage of your relationship with your child, and you want to make sure your child doesn't feel like you're leaving them. They don't understand yet why you're not there, and you may have long rehearsals and performances and things like that. And so it is important to kind of establish that relationship and feel comfortable with the
Yeah.
fact that you might be working quite a bit and don't see them as much. But I think as much as we can include our children in our lives, that's the key. I happened to, when Nadia was younger, Nadia is my daughter's name. When she was younger, I just happened to be doing shows that I chose not to let her see. And it's interesting because different parent theater artists they think differently about what they expose their children to. But for me, when my daughter was, I mean, I feel like I started when she was maybe about 3 or 4, and there were things that I just wouldn't let her see because I didn't want her to take that kind of imagery in. It was too adult or, too mature. Not so much about her being able to be still during the performance, but I felt like, we'll wait until she gets older. And so I was always excited when I could do something that she could see. Like, for instance, I did a piece at Imagination Stage called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And I was just so thrilled that not only could she see it, but her school took a field trip there because they already had a relationship with the theater. So it was great to be able to say, okay, this is what mommy does. This is what it looks like when mommy's at work. Because I think that is that key, right? That they need to be able to see what work looks like. And so
Right.
as much as you can bring them, it's good when you can.
Yeah. And first off, Imagination Stage, they do so. I mean, I think that was my first job in the city when I first moved here, was because I got cast in Seussical, um, as the Cat in the Hat, and I came to DC, and that's where I started my whole life here. So they do amazing things. I cannot wait, even though it's on the other side of the city. I'm in Alexandria, to get Ben. My son's name is Ben. To get him involved in those classes, and yeah, for him to see me work. I had one of my nephews got to see me do the Cat in the Hat, and I remember he was in the back with my mom, and he was clapping, and I ran during one of the songs. I ran and I tickled him really quick, and that laugh was like, I'll never forget it. So my son, for that to happen for my son, when we were in Sense and Sensibility, I remember Michael Glenn, amazing actor in town. His son was seeing him in his first show, I think, and I walked onto stage and I see him waving in the balcony to his son, because we were on stage before the show began, and I started weeping. It wasn't even like, I was just weeping behind him, like, so I can't imagine what that's going to be like for him to, to see what I do, and become part of that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love it. There's nothing like it. I think we always feel like, oh, we want our parents or our aunts and uncles, grandparents, the adults in our family to feel proud of us, right? When we're growing up, and we want to impress them and for them to be proud. But for me, I remember wanting my child to be proud of what her mom did, to be able to see her mom doing something that was meaningful, right? So I think that's definitely a big part of it, is that you want your child to be proud of the example you're setting for them, the stories that you're telling. So yeah, I think you're gonna love it when that when that time comes.
I'm
For
gonna
sure.
flip, and you know what else? That hasn't even happened in my mind yet, though, which is so funny because of COVID, because I haven't done much with him outside at all. The fact that I want him to be proud of me. I still am on the other side of like, oh, I hope my parent. It's funny. I'm still a kid anyway. God help, but um, but that's so interesting that's going to change, and that's going to be more important than, what does my uncle think? I hope he thinks I was a good
Yeah.
man. You know what I mean? It's
That
like,
shift, because when you see those eyes and you see them asking you those questions and looking at you, and you realize so much of their life sits on your shoulders, you know? And when you're thinking about those examples that you're setting, it's just like, oh my gosh, I want you to be proud. I want you to see what I'm doing and laying this groundwork. I think continuing on, okay, seeing me in a show, right? Because I just happened to be an actor at the time, but also appreciating theater and being a person who loves theater. And that was the next step for me, was to get a subscription there.
Mhm.
And so we had I, let me not misspeak. We did not have a subscription, but we went to all the shows. I think I sometimes I did, but you know how it is. It's like you either buy a subscription or you just go to the shows,
Mhm.
right? So we would see everything that Imagination did for a good maybe 2 or 3 year period until she aged out of it, and there were things that she could see that were a little bit more mature.
Right.
And so, but we saw so much theater specifically for kids, and to me, as a theater parent, I understood how important it was for young people to have theater that spoke directly to them, because I knew that as she got older, she would seek it out, but she would say, okay, well, this theater doesn't speak to me, but what does? She would seek out theater that spoke to her, you know? So I'm curious what your thoughts are about how you see steering your son in that direction.
I mean, it's just so exciting that it's that I, we're here in DC, which is, I think, it's in the top 3 cities of the United States in theater, Chicago, New York. And then I get to allow him the opportunity to, or just to pick and choose. And I mean, I know it's fascinating. The only time we went out before this all happened, the COVID, when I was doing Newsies, I took him to Arena Stage like during the day, and we, just to meet the people, and Molly Smith was in there, and he got to meet Molly Smith. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, what is that?
Yeah,
And
that's
and
incredible.
Parker and these, but Molly, like she's a fixture in the theater, and she's changed the American theater. And here he comes, and he's just on the stage with me in the arena, in the fish lander, and like we're looking around, and that was one of the most amazing. But that was it. That was the only time, because then it closed. I did the show at Theater J, and it closed literally. Our last night of performances is when theater shut down. I think we were the last show running in DC and New York. It was like, because we had to finish. So we had like 4 people in the audience. So we were doing the run. But he didn't get to experience any of that, but he got to meet the people. And I think that's maybe even more exciting, is that he gets to meet, he will be able to meet all of my friends, all of these people, and grow from the my environment and my, what I've, so I think I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I wish I didn't have theater growing up. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. There's not tons of culture in Myrtle Beach. I mean, you got the Alabama.
Myrtle Beach.
It's fun. I love it. It's my home. But you didn't have a lot of like, let's go to the theater today.
Mhm.
It's like, let's go to Myrtle Waves
Yeah, the beach.
or the beach. So I wish I had theater, and I didn't even have theater. My first show happened, I think I saw it in high school, and so the fact that he gets to see that is just pretty spectacular, and I'm very excited, about that. Um,
Mhm.
uh, did your daughter, did she go into theater? Did she
Yes,
do anything?
she did, and it's interesting because it wasn't expected. Uh, I'm going to take full responsibility. I was going to say we are steering, but I was steering her towards science. I'm just like, she's going to be a scientist. And kids are going to be a million things when they're kids. But as she got older, the first inkling that I felt that, oh, she really wants to do this is when she was in 6th grade, and they had their 6th grade musical or their presentation at the end of the year. And she wouldn't let anybody see what she was rehearsing. And she was just like, I wanted to be a surprise. I wanted to be a surprise. And we were there. Her dad was there. I was there. My parents were there. There were a couple other relatives were there. And we were just expecting to see a cute, like it was like a sock hop theme. So her and the other kids that were doing their thing. And then there's this moment where where there's a scene, it sets her up to sing a song, and they're like, oh, Nadia, sing that song. And she starts to step off of the stage and walk through the aisle, and she's singing that song, Dream a Little Dream of Me. And she's got her hand down and she has the microphone and she's like, "Ooh, shining up above," and she just has all this presence and, you know, like this deep, rich voice, and she's just commanding the audience. And you can see, like, I'm in the aisle with the camera, I was already recording, but you can see the camera start to shake and just like, what is happening? And you can hear my dad's voice in the background, like, holy, like, we're just completely blown away because no one knew. Now, fair enough. Of course, she sang in the back seat all the time. You know, she's had a lot of music played around her. All kids do that. Whatever you do around them, they're going to follow. But that's when I said, maybe this is something she's really into. So I don't know what, you know, I think for all of us, we have different entryways into this. She then started to study more. She participated in school, but she had good musical theater and music programs in her middle school and her high school. That's huge. If you don't have that, right? When you talk about you didn't have theater when you were young, like, think about, like, if there were certain things that were just sort of a foregone conclusion, you would have done it. You wouldn't have thought twice. I mean, I had the same experience. We did have school musicals, we had music program, we had things in school, but I participated sometimes, other times didn't. But I feel like when you're young, you just kind of go along with with what people tell you, right? So if they say, hey, arts are important, everybody has to do it, then you just do it. So I think, for me, it was interesting to see her make that choice and to want to debut it to the family members. And then from there, she just kept at it. And now she does it professionally. So.
Oh, she does. She's an actor.
Yeah, but the same thing, COVID shut everything off, and she graduated last year from SUNY Purchase in their theater program. And
great school.
Yeah, and she had a great time there. She was ready to go. She was going on Broadway auditions, and then this happens. And so she has to pivot. I mean, I think, and it's also that piece, right, where we all have to think about how can we use the skills that we've studied so hard to develop in other ways, because we don't want to lose them, but we also recognize that they have value beyond our performances on the stage, that there's so much more that we can do. And how do we reapply those skills?
Absolutely. When they were reading the bio, when Dee was reading the bios, I literally wrote down, the bios the credits are not everything, because I heard all the teaching that you've done, and I was like, oh, I taught at the University of Maryland, and which is the school I want to teach at so bad. But I was listening to that and I was like, oh, it's like what my grandfather said, that a lot of what success is the stories you tell, like at the end of the whole thing, that you've done all these things, like what you're doing in the Buffalo Police, like that's huge.
Thank
and
you.
that it's so hard for me, coming out of school. It was just like a trajectory of, these are the theaters I have to work at. These are the shows I have to do. I need to do 2 a year, and I'm still doing it. I make lists, and that's great because it keeps me going. It keeps me competitive. But at the same time, now it's a shock to my system, because there is that my whole list, has been completely shut down, probably until 2022. Who knows? I mean, who knows? But the fact is, now I have to look, and I'm having a lot of trouble, like at finding what I can do, what I can make money doing. But
well, have you worked as a teaching artist before?
Yeah, I've taught. I mean, I've taught college. I've taught at College of Charleston and Coastal Carolina universities, and but I've never done a studio. But I've worked. I've just been adjunct professor in acting, and that is what that does to your soul. Teaching is huge. I mean, you grow. It's funny when I came back from teaching at the College of Charleston, and I was working as an actor, but not getting paid very much. I was very happy. I was very content, because I was doing something that was furthering humanity in a way, not just with my performance, but also with.
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, it furthers humanity. We have to acknowledge that the work that we do does.
Yeah. I wish I just had.
People are here because they've seen you, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And but also I was teaching, and that was just, I loved it so much. So I need to get back to that, but there again, it's hard to find a teaching position right now. But
Sure.
so I'm going back to to get a wait tables or something, that's okay. But it's exciting that you just said all that, because you know um it is about like, how can we shift what we've been trained to do, what years and years of training, to something else, um and I
Mhm.
don't know yet. I don't know what that is yet for me and for my family. I don't, are we going to move? I don't think so, because I still need to work here, but what's the next plan? It's very scary. Are you still teaching right now?
Well, so my job as director of arts engagement at Shays is a full-time job, and inside that I do teach sometimes, but I have a team of people and they tend to do the teaching, and we have freelance teaching artists who we bring on. But we have the same challenge. Things have to be socially distanced. We people have to be engaged. Folks are exhausted, and it's hard to engage people in the way that when the world was open, if you will, it was a lot easier. We had sort of the opposite problem of trying to narrow down, okay, what are all the things we can do? There's so many folks who want to partner with us in some way. So it is a challenge. It's a challenge for all of us, but only because I've had time over the past several years to pivot to use these skills in a different way. I think to Dee's point, when she talked about the police officer training, that was something that developed over time based on training I was doing with other groups. I was working with professionals, business professionals, and interns and nurses doing general body language training. And oh, look, I've appeared. And that's my daughter Nadia, who has just appeared.
Hi, Nadia. That's good.
And and so just thinking about how do these skills pivot, it takes time, and I use what we learn as actors, protagonist antagonist relationships, given circumstances, objectives, like we're talking about those kinds of things that when we're doing scene study, I talk to police officers and say, look at yourself as a character in a costume, that's your uniform, and the other person you're engaging with is a character in a costume, that's what they're wearing at that time, helping them separate themselves from the badge so that they don't take things personally when people say the things they say sometimes about the police, because of the relationships that we have here. So it's like just finding your way. But the key was that I went on two 10-hour shift ride along. So I've done 20 hours of ride alongs. So I wasn't just coming in from like, I'm an actor and I know the things that you all should change because you have all these issues. I'm coming in and they're showing me what their day-to-day is like. So I'm able to turn around and use the language they know, use the scenarios they encounter, and inform myself and build my own empathy. So I would say, as teaching artists, as artists who engage in community building, it's important for us to remember that empathy, right? And remember that community building, and it takes time, and it's not just transactional. It's got to be organic in
Mm,
order for it to last.
that's very true. Organic. That like that it, you know, you can't just force something uh, onto yourself or to your career. It has to feel, and find its way. Yeah, the one thing we were looking at now with, again, having Ben has changed my life too, with the fact of, I used to, how many regional gigs can I pick up, kind of a thing. And now it's like, do I want to leave for 2 months and be away 2 months? I can't even imagine a day right now being away from it. Like, and that's like I can't even think about it. I'll start crying, and then everybody will have to come over and hug me or something, because like it's I cannot imagine, going 2 months away from my son. And I think the I have a friend who's an actor, who's in Come From Away on Broadway before it closed down, and he Paul Whitty is his name. Best friend growing up, and he um, and me, we started reading plays, and can we do a Zoom play? Can we, like, we were doing readings of Lonely Planet, which is also about like two people who are scared to leave their homes, which is it's kind of relevant right now in a different way. But it was also the scare of in the 80s and the 90s, when the AIDS was so prevalent, and now we have COVID. So anyway, we were looking at that, but again, there's no money to be made, so you have to, because you have a family now, you have to. I'm like, how do I do that with the time I have, which is none, and get to, um, but and bring in the bills, or pay the bills, So it's oh man, it's juggling, Um, did you move to Buffalo? Like how long have you been there? How long were you ever an actress like for a
No,
period?
not in Buffalo. I have lived in Buffalo at this point for about 2.5 years. My
Yeah, she
daughter is
abandoned
in
us.
New York City. She has she moved to New York to go to purchase. Prior to that, we lived in the area.
I see.
So, right, so she never lived in Buffalo, and I didn't live in Buffalo as an actor. I moved here after she was, yeah, already maybe a sophomore or so. Like she was a couple years into college, and this opportunity came about, and I finally felt like I could leave. And it's similar to what you're saying, that I didn't do regional work outside of DC. I didn't try, and I'm gonna be honest that I kind of used Nadia as an excuse to myself.
Mm,
You know, I felt like, well, I don't want to be away from my child for X amount of time. But she never said, Mom, you can't. Like, she never, you know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing that we do. I think there are others who have done that and have been able to manage it fine. I feel like Dee has done that very well, where she works. Okay, sorry. She's like, sometimes I know that she works all over, but but it's hard. I mean, there you go. That's the point, right? It's like it's hard, and you really do have to make it. You have to make the decision gig by gig, right? Job by job. Like, okay, this is too big an opportunity to give up. I got to do it. And I didn't even, I'm not even going to sit up here and act like I had all these opportunities regionally that I was turning down. I didn't even try because I was afraid. And when she left town to go to college to study this, I'm like, I want to be on Broadway. I'm going to, be a big star. I was just like, she's so courageous. And then that's when it shifted. And I looked to her for inspiration and thought, I want to continue. At that point, I was already doing our arts management work, but I wanted to scale out impact. And there's so many of us doing incredible work in the DC area. And I thought, but there need to be more of us in other areas. And I just wanted to go to a different place. So,
That's where we are too, talking, and like, I mean, this is not the greatest time to start a theater company, but
not the greatest, but I mean, but also maybe so, because you got all this time, right, to
right,
develop.
exactly. And we had one in Charleston, South Carolina, started it, but Charleston's, I don't know if you've been to Charleston.
No,
Oh, it is
I hear
unbelievable.
it's really beautiful.
It is.
You got to get down there. It's so beautiful. But
It's amazing, and it's very, it's very expensive right now because the food's amazing. I think it's like number one on the best cities list, and on some of the magazines, like Condé Nast, I think, or Condé Nast, however you say it. Uh, but yeah, we were looking at that, because part of what we do is, in training in acting, was that I remember Ken Washington. I don't know if you ever met or ran into Ken Washington. One of my,
Yeah.
oh God, I mean, just one of my all-time favorite people, and really steered me in the right way as an actor. He was like, he's like, Jamie, go and do theater. Um, uh, and you don't have to go to New York. You don't have to go to LA. You don't have to. You can go back to your home city, and you can change that city. Myrtle Beach needs that. I mean, I don't want to do that right now, but it's like, do we go back to Charleston? Do I go to
Right.
Charlottesville where my brother lives and do it there, teach at the university? That's a possibility, but there's so many options. But they're on hold right now a little, but maybe I
Mhm.
should unhold them. Maybe I think that, like you just said, now might be a great time to, you know,
Develop.
to
Like now
develop.
is a great time for incubation and development
That's
of
such a
things
great
that
idea.
when you were working, you didn't have time to do, but you had these ideas and you were like, oh, one day I might get to that, I might do that, but you didn't have the time. Now is that time. Nadia is at work, by the way. She's so sweet. I told her we were doing this, and I thought, Dee, is it okay if she speaks a little bit from her perspective on that? Because I thought if she had a moment, it might be helpful for you to hear, like, her angle, because maybe I missed something. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have my surrogate niece on this call, having been a part of my life since she was 3, and me having a hard time to wrap my mind around the fact that she's 23 now. So Nadia, talk to us a little bit about being a theater baby and your trajectory, and what your mom, what your mom's influence was on you in choosing your path, and what are your hopes for what looks like a start at a good future today, specifically.
Um, Hi, I am Nadia Duncan, and well, I'm at work right now. The only reason I don't have my mask is because I'm by myself, so no worries about that. But in terms of I guess I can start from the beginning. I also remember when I performed in 6th grade, and it was really important to me because I felt like I had been given an honor to be given a solo in the performance, and I really wanted to nail it. And it was something that felt surreal and different, and like I was on another plane of existence. And I think that the first time I had that feeling, I knew that that was a feeling I was going to keep chasing, because that feeling was really, really cool. So, thankfully, I had a perfect example of someone who had continued that feeling into their adulthood. And I think that's a lot of the reason that I have been able to do that as well. And yeah, I'm really inspired by my mom. She was always is so supportive of me. She hasn't stopped. And I definitely owe a lot of my success, if you can even call it that, to my mom, and to the future successes I may have to my mom. I don't know, do you have a specific question? I'm just going on, but
No, that was good. That was good. And that was very, I appreciate that, Nadia. Thank you for saying that.
Jamie, you may have a few questions, being as though you're on the beginning side of this. Maybe Nadia has some do's and don'ts uh, for for theater parents.
Oh, that's a good one, Dee. That's a good point. I like that.
Yeah, help me. No, I'm just kidding. No, no. First off, the purchase. How was your training? Did you? Israel Hicks was the head of Rutgers and used to be a purchase, I think. So I always looked at that school as one of the, a lot of my friends auditioned for there, and it's a very. Was it a tough time there? Um, how was your experience?
I absolutely loved it. I think it was perfect for me. It's very small, it's a very niche community. A lot of the theater we did was experimental. We did a lot of new works, we had a lot of guest artists. I had the great honor to be directed by Whitney White in a performance that we did. I got to work with City Company, I got to work with some of Anne Bogart's proteges there. So I got to work with a lot of amazing artists and do a lot of devised work. And then for my senior thesis, each of us has to do our own fully produced production. And that counts as your graduation project. So I did a production of No Strings that I produced and also starred in. And it was just incredible having to see both the acting side, which I had spent years and years training and practicing and learning, but also I had to fundraise my entire project. I had to make sure that we had everything we needed. I had to make sure that we were going out buying things, props, paying
Mm.
for our set. We had to build our set by ourselves. We had to do everything by ourselves. Like, our professors guided us, but we were supposed to do everything we could on our own. So it was really incredible to have a test run of being a real theater artist in the safe space of my college and with the guidance of my great faculty. So it was a really amazing experience, and I really enjoyed my time there.
So great.
Yeah.
That's so great. Well, congrats. And you're in New York City now?
I am right now. I'm actually in Manhattan. I am the assistant manager of this studio here that I'm in.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm in
That's
Manhattan.
great.
Yeah.
Now, did you when the announcement today of Biden? Where did you hear this? The screams on the streets.
Yeah, I did. We're up in a high rise, but I could hear it from the street.
I started crying. All my friends were like out their windows and just like, I felt the community, you're part of such a great community in New York City, and that's one thing I lived there for a while and I missed that so much, the excitement and, walking into people and, literally like your friends will be on the street corner. You're like, what
Yeah.
are you doing here? Oh, so I'm envious for you. That's so great. And I can't wait for this to start up. I always think about with COVID and stuff that I think about myself, of course. I'm like, oh, it's shut down, but I'm actually probably in a good place for it. I feel bad for the younger artists getting out and wanting to jump into it and then it happening. I think that's even harder. So, yeah, I wish you so much luck and if you have anything to tell me about being a good parent, I'm ready to hear because I am in the very beginnings of it. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it may be unclear to you how connected your son may be to theater, but hopefully you'll
yeah,
raise another person to join us and
exactly. Yeah.
feel
I
like
just, oh,
you,
sorry, Nadia.
okay, go ahead.
I
Okay.
just wanted to jump in and say there are things that I remember. There are kind of, if in terms of a theater baby, if your baby goes into theater, there are things I remember about the effort it takes. Like her dad did a lot of the heavy lifting and sort of driving her around to a lot of places. Like there's that element. Like when you think of like the soccer parents, it's really not different. You're driving them around to all kinds of rehearsals and trainings and concerts, but there's something that Nadia would always do. So I will just say this from my perspective. Whenever she had a performance, and she would not accept me just, if they had a run and they had like 5 performances, she didn't accept me seeing one. It was like, you're seeing all of them.
Yeah.
So that's, I will say from the parents' perspective, knowing that you're a practitioner, your child, if he goes into this, is going to expect more from you. So we would always do notes in the car. So it's always like, okay, notes. So I have to give her notes every time. And if I didn't have specific detailed notes on a particular performance, where I would just say, no, that was really great, you hit all those things that we talked about, it wouldn't be enough for her. She would be like, no, I need more notes. So I would just say, thinking about how nurturing in your child, whatever he goes into, that thirst for feedback and support, because there is something that we might do as parents that we're doing out of love, where we're like, you are so wonderful, you're the best thing that ever happened, right? We just praise. But in giving her detailed feedback, I was able to help her know how to get better and help her know what she needed to work on, and not feel so much like, yeah, okay, mom's gonna say yay, dad's gonna say, like, that whole, like, you were the best ever. Nadia, I don't know if you felt that supported you in any way in your growth as an artist.
It supported me because I could handle it.
Nope. Oh, all right. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
But
It's not for everybody.
I'm very serious. I'm a very serious person. So.
but there is something to that too. Like my mom put me in touch with theater. She was like, my grandfather was an amazing human being that was a magician, an actor, and started his own theater company in North Myrtle Beach, did all this stuff. And so he tried to get me in theater when I was really young, but I got really scared. I was a very shy kind of a kid. But when my mom told me to take high school theater, I did. And like you said, the thank God I had someone that really was passionate about theater in my younger, or I would not be an actor. I doubt I would. But he, it led me into that world. And when I was at Rutgers, doing Meisner technique, which is so like, you fail a lot at doing that. It's like doing improv or something. You fail a lot at that, and you fail a lot in theater and auditions all the time. But I was very soft. I was very green. When I went to LA, I was like, I moved to LA because I got agents. And I was like, oh, here we are. I don't think I could take rejection very well. So that idea that you can take notes, and you know what I mean, but also just the truthfulness of that maybe would have helped me, you know, if I had gone to college like, oh, you know, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to grow. I think one of the most important things I learned as an artist was to always strive to be a beginner, you know, like even now, try to be a beginner, try to learn, take things, you know, and I think that's huge. But I didn't get that till later on, so I'm going to try to install that in my child as early as I can.
We have a question from our board president, and then we have another one from Nason. I am going to ask our board president, Jack, to unmute himself and ask his question.
So, full disclosure, I'm the son of an actor, um, and two children who almost became actors. We dodged that bullet. Um, and my father didn't. I didn't realize he was a professional actor until I turned 18 because he had been pretending to be a Navy captain for 25 years. So when he retired and his first role was Mr. Roberts, I thought that was okay. Anyways, children of actors turn out okay, so it's fine. Um, and I was just thinking about it before I get to my question. That the two things that I got from my father was one, seeing him reinvent himself as an actor from being a career Navy person, and to see that and to see the drive and the sweat and the tears and the rejections and having seen that as an adult was pretty remarkable. And I think that that's one of those skills that you're showing to your children regardless of career path. And so I wouldn't worry too much that that you're not connecting. You're demonstrating some amazing behaviors that I think is good. My question though was, how many years of acting did you have before starting a family, and did that make the transition to keeping it local? And knowing Jamie's still in transition, did that make it easier or harder? Having had established, or did you start very early and your career grew with your children? Kind of a complicated question. Sorry.
No, I'll take it. I started about the same time Nadia came. She was very small when I started. It had been something I'd thought about, but I was in no way already working as a professional actor before her. So when she came about and I sort of simultaneously started to develop more interest in performing, it was just a matter of figuring out how to make it work. I don't think there was ever a point where I felt like, oh, this will be difficult to do. I think it was just like, okay, sort of to what you were saying, Jack, is that is your kids learn by what they watch you do. So I thought it would be positive for her to watch me going after something that I had a dream about. But it did influence me, sort of as I was speaking to earlier. Is like I told myself I could not work outside of the DC area. So I worked really hard to get as much work as I could in the area, but I told myself that I couldn't leave the area.
Hmm. Yeah, and as for me, the same thing where I was working a lot outside. My wife Jenny Donovan, who's worked at First Stage, also in Doubt. Uh, she she was pregnant and coming to see me in a show in Portland, and in Boston we were talking about it, and so at that point I was like, oh, I'm going to continue doing this. This is before, and I was almost going to go to Milwaukee possibly this year to do a show, um, but I didn't because of COVID. But um, I was in the middle of it. I was like on the steam engine going, and we were always like, when's the best time? And there's never a good time to have to use, we were just like, I want a family is the most important thing. So we did it. And then this happened. So it's for me, it's such a early stage that, you know, um, that and just having COVID, I don't even know what the answer is because I'm in the middle of this. Do you know what I mean? It's like I thought I knew the answers, and then this throws a wrench in it. You're like, oh, I don't know what, am I going to slow down the acting, or am I, what am I going to do? But I don't know if that's clear.
As clear as a parent can make it. I've been trying to get Jamie to put Ben on camera, but I think Ben is taking a nap. Maybe he'll
Yes.
wake up before we're done. We have another question from Nason, and I'm going to, there you are.
Hey there. So I was just curious, my wife and I both work in theater. We have a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old. And we always talk about how, like, I don't know, we want them to be plumbers or accountants or mechanics. And so, I'm just curious, like, like, this is more for Thimby than for you, Jane. But did you when Nadia's path was revealed, like, were you knowing how hard it is, but also how rewarding it can be? I mean, like, were you scared for her? Were you proud? Like, how did that? Yeah, how did you feel about that? Did you
Yeah,
want?
that's a really great question. I think because I am the person I am. Oh, is a child coming? Yeah, I knew. I was like, he's reaching for
She's
a
just hanging
baby.
out with the grandparents, but yes.
Hi.
So
I
cute.
love it. Yes, adorable. I mean, when I think about when I was starting to understand that this was Nadia, what Nadia wanted to do. I mean, I think back to when she was in middle school. Of course, this is right after she had the big song. Then she goes to middle school, and she has this excellent musical theater musical theater teacher, and she's got this great program. So for me, I'm at that point, I'm thinking this is something she needs to do, the same way people always feel like their kids need to do sports. When she got into high school was when I realized she was okay, she's really serious. And she said it, she would articulate it, she's a serious person. This is what I want to do with my life. And so that's when we started to have real conversations, and I would encourage her to do work outside of school, because school theater programs and the real world are very different. And so at that point, yes, I absolutely was scared. I was so worried about all the things that are out there that could be obstacles. But I know my child, I know her determination, I know her seriousness and her focus. And I was like, as long as we just support her in whatever she wants to do, she'll be fine. And that is exactly how it's been so far. Like, it has not, with anything, there are ups and downs, but we've supported her 100%, and she's been pushing. Now, I'm going to tell the truth that, like, her mom's personality is very free spirited. Her dad's personality, he's a numbers guy. He's very pragmatic and practical. So for him, it was like, it took him longer to get on board, but he's on board now and he's fully supportive. So I think it's just your own personality, your child's personality. If you know your child, you know what to expect.
That's lovely. Jamie, I actually have a question for you. Being a newer parent, how has Ben's presence in your life affected your maturity as a performer? Or, what changed for you when you became responsible for another human being in terms of how you presented your art?
I mean, that's an amazing. It made me first off just not take things so seriously. I was, I mean, I still do, but I remember when I was auditioning when he was very young, and usually auditions would make or break, your day or your week or your month. Who knows which ones, but like, I think for me, it was funny when I was auditioning for something only where I hadn't worked, and I still haven't worked, and I can't wait to, but I was auditioning for something and I didn't get it that day. Then I come home and I'm like, oh, poor me, I didn't get that one show, and Jenny's like, we're pregnant. And in that moment, I realized so much. Like, I was like, oh, that's what's important. So being with him has taken off how serious I take an audition, or or I'm sorry, how serious I think an audition is. Um, but also as a father, it's. I mean, I'm learning so much as a human being, and I don't know what it's going to do to my art, because I haven't been able to do it in so long. But like, he is so the innocence, the his eyes, I'm seeing the world anew, every day as he sees something new. And I think that's how I have to continue to be an artist, and approach roles, and as again that youth, like that beginner, what I was saying, striving to be a beginner. But I remember the only show I've done other than Newsies, I did The Wanderers at Theater J again, and I was doing the show and I was playing uh, a father in the show, and I remember just this truth, this sense of honesty and truth just dropping in, um, in the role, because I was like, again, everything's not as important. Telling your art, being truthful on a stage, telling these stories are what is important. And it goes back to that when you have a son, or when you start a family. I think you just go back to that.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. I have a question for either one of you. Thembi, you spoke earlier about pretty much monitoring when Nadia, or what you allowed Nadia to see in terms of when you were performing. So I'm curious, and have known people who have criticized both of us for having that kind of censorship with our children, and what we allow them. What is it about some of the things that we do on stage, or we have to do on stage, that gives us pause for presenting it or allowing our children to be exposed to it? Jamie, do you have a sense that that's something you'll do? And then Thembi, for you, why did you do it? And what was it about theater, and what was being presented on stage that made you be the arbiter of your daughter's safety in that regard?
Well, for me, I knew and understood that her brain development and her relationship with me was such that if she saw something happening to me on stage, that she wouldn't understand what she was seeing. And that, yeah, the content, we can all have, like you said, people can criticize about content, or what we allow our children to see or not. But knowing that at a young age, she not wanting her to witness something violent happening to her mom or inappropriate, and then having that image in her mind, because you can't unsee it once you see it. That to me was all I needed. So if it wasn't child oriented, or, middle of the road, like with no issues, then nah, she wasn't seeing it. It was just that simple for me. And people will the argument people will make is that, oh, you can't control everything your child sees, and they're going to see a million things. And it's like, well, I'm also not going to feed it to her directly. I already know that, right? So I'm going to protect her. I'm going to protect the things that she sees and hears. I'm going to protect the music I play around her, the things that she sees on television. It doesn't mean I might not be taking in grown up content. I'm just not taking it in around her. I think I'm just not one of those parents who goes on business as usual when you have a child in the room. So that it was easy for me.
Yeah, and for me, it's at the very beginning. It's just the TV is all I have right now. Is we're trying not to show him too much TV, and um, very little. Like, but if it is Sesame Street, or if it's or it's something like Thomas, it's an amazing show. No, that we're protecting him from that too, because I want his imagine. I try to remember what it was like for me, and the imagination, and growing through my own world. So that's me in the first year and a half. That's what. And I love what you said. I don't want to add anything to that. Like, we did the show The Boys Next Door. You ever? It's like, so I was playing I think it was the schizophrenic who his dad comes and hits him, in the show. And we invited all of these, like, we went to a home and we talked to the home, and we invited the home to come. And when my dad hit me, two of the people started charging the stage because they thought it was so real. And we went backstage, and my friend was like, well, they were having a great time till you ruined their, but it's that they're children in a way. And that's the same thing, for my child. So
I agree. I think we have to be thoughtful of our responsibilities as performers, right? We are creating a real world in front of people, and we have to be thoughtful that we know it's pretend because we're inhabiting these characters, but they're seeing real human beings engaging in real interactions that could either be triggering to something in their own lives, or it's just like you said, if where I am with my cognitive understandings, I see you get hit, how do I know you're not really being hit? And
Mhm.
I am going to come and try to protect you. And yeah, it's just how can we be responsible enough to say this is not for everybody at every moment? Discretion is important.
Yes.
So
Well said, well put from a parent. Thank you both so, so much. If there are no other questions, we are very close to closing out. We really appreciate you joining us, and we're just really happy that we had Nadia join us. So you can see the fruit of the labor of a theater artist is here is a beautiful young lady who is stunning. And someone said, nobody ever says a boys are smart when they do things that are products of when you go to school, but she's smart and she's imaginative and creative. So, and then Jamie's son Ben is resting and is at peace with the world.
You can't even see it. I don't think you can see it. There's just so much. There's where's the
Uh,
camera?
uh, oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Such a
there's the guy.
beautiful baby. And with theater being a vehicle for social change, it just seems so befitting as artists to allow our children to be a part of the world that we grow up in, and keep a little bit of distance from the things that may be traumatic, because we certainly don't want to cause trauma.
Mhm.
Welcome, thank you to both of our guests again, Thembi and Jamie. Thembi, welcome to the First Stage family. Once you have done something for us, there is no going back.
I don't want
You
to
are
go back. I
you
am glad to
are
be here.
in.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. We hope that all of you will join us next week with Bobby McCoy and Bill Yanish as we talk about musical direction, the other sound designer. Uh, so thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you all are as I don't know, at peace for the moment as I am today. And I really applaud all of you for staying with us, for sticking with us as we continue to try to engage with you and keep our family relevant. And Thembi went to high school with Bobby. Then you have to come back and see him. Uh, so
Nadia did.
Nadia, oh, okay,
Yeah.
but she didn't change her name.
No,
So
she did because she's confusing you. Yeah, she went to high school with Bobby.
so Nadia went to high school with Bobby. So awesome, because Bobby is awesome, and Bobby, as our First Stage family knows, is one of our faves. Uh, Jamie, thank you again. Thank you for taking time, having a young baby at home, and Thembi, thank you for joining us from Buffalo, New York, and congratulations on the great social justice work that you're doing. Everyone, have a wonderful Saturday, a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.